So what the heck are Polish communist gardens? Today I will tell you a little bit about allotment gardens in Poland, how they came to be and how are they functioning nowadays, all while walking through one of the biggest allotment sites in Warsaw. Somebody actually has pigeons. Hi everyone! Today it's going to be a little bit of a different video. We're going for a little excursion. It's a super sunny day, so I have my glasses, I have my hat, I have my coffee with a cute little cat. Let's get going. And if you're new here, hi! My name is Veronica and I'm currently renovating my 500 square meter allotment garden in the city center of Warsaw, specifically this one behind me. And we're going today for a little excursion because I realized that the idea of allotment gardening, or at least how it functions in Poland specifically, might not be extremely clear to all of you guys. So what are allotment gardens? They are basically small plots of land for growing vegetables, fruits, flowers, and often featuring some kind of tiny house or at least a garden shed. Each plot typically measures between 300 to 500 square meters and serves as a place where people gather to take care of plants, relax in their garden houses, and socialize with neighbors. But they are not only gardens, they really are kind of like community centers where people get a chance to escape their urban life, connect with nature, and maintain some sort of, self-sufficiency. The gardens are usually grouped together into bigger sites, and in Poland you can normally notice them tucked away between industrial zones, often close to railroads or airports or on the outskirts of the cities. So areas that are not super popular to live in or where it's just impossible to live. But there are some allotment sites, like the one where my garden is located, that you can find right in the city centers. See, this is like a regular path in our allotment gardens. And over there you can see this is like a normal neighborhood with a bunch of buildings and a lot of people living in it. 10-15 minutes away from the heart of Warsaw. In that allotment over there, somebody actually has pigeons. This garden has so many beautiful flowers. Just look at it. Of course, my favorite was rudbeckias, but also this purple one I love and I really want to grow it in my own garden. And then those beautiful dahlias and I love it. It's like a perfect little cottage garden. I'm not really an expert in legal details of functioning of allotment gardens, but I think that in majority of the cases, the land that the allotment gardens are on actually belong to the state. And then state cooperates with an association of like Polish allotment gardeners that manages allotment gardens in general. So when you're buying an allotment garden, you're not really buying the land. You're buying a lifelong right of usage of that land that also can be inherited, but you're not really becoming an owner. Being a part of an association also means that you are required to follow certain rules of the allotment sites. And it's quite a long list that covers pretty much everything, from the allowed maximum height of your fence, how big the building on your plot can be, the fact that you're not allowed to reside in your allotment garden or use it to run a business. The rules are quite detailed, but I'd say that many gardeners treat them more like suggestions rather than strict regulations. But perhaps it's just Polish people being Polish. As you can see, not all of the gardens are very well taken care of. Like this one is definitely abandoned and nobody's been here for a while. And actually the association that is managing the allotment site is able to take your rights of usage away if you're not taking appropriate care of the garden. They would send you a warning first. They would ask you to just clean up, take better care, but if you don't do it, they can take it away and assign it to another person. Now, a few words about the history. Let's jump back in time. Imagine living in a crowded city in the beginning of the 20th century. Factories are everywhere, the air is polluted, and fresh food is hard to come by. Out of this environment, the allotment gardening movement was born. It started in the UK as a simple idea: give working class families a small piece of land where they could grow their own food. What began as a lifeline quickly grew into a movement. As industrialization swept across Europe, so did allotment gardens. They became a part of the larger push for social reform, focused on improving workers' health, living conditions, and overall quality of life. But allotment gardens weren't just about survival. They offered fresh food, a place to relax outdoors, and a sense of community, things that remain just as important today as they were back then. In Poland, the idea of allotment gardening became quite popular in the early 20th century, but it really flourished during the communist era. During this time, it was challenging to get food items from state-run stores. The government controlled production and prices, which led to constant shortages. People waited in long lines for hours, sometimes not even knowing what actually will be available once they make it to the counter. So people in urban areas really used allotment gardens to provide necessities for their families. They would be growing potatoes and cabbage and onions and all of the things that you need to basically feed your family. In addition, during the communist era, private leisure spaces were quite limited, so allotment gardens offered a rare refuge of freedom and intimacy. Many Poles think back to those times as some of their best memories. Weekends spent with grandparents, helping to tend vegetables, eating fresh fruit straight from the tree, or simply resting among flowers. For many, allotment gardens are a sentimental link to a simpler and more communal past. And then came the 90s, when Poland finally freed itself from the influence of Soviet Russia. And Polish society really started looking more towards the West, standards and ideals and fashions. And that's why allotment gardens really started losing their relevance in the 90s, and by 2000s, I would say they were very much perceived as a retirement hobby. So when in 2019 I decided to buy my allotment garden, it was very much seen as a controversial decision. I think that a lot of my friends could not even begin to understand why a 20-something-year-old woman living in a big city and having a decent job would like to spend her weekends digging in the ground. Of course, eventually they came around, especially when in 2020 COVID pandemic hit and we started having pretty severe lockdowns, and having a piece of land in the city center where you could just go and chill outside became like the absolutely most treasured possession you could have in Warsaw. And just like that, all of a sudden, allotment gardens came back to being super popular, even with younger people. This allotment garden was actually just recently sold to this young couple with 2 kids, and they're building by themselves their new house. And even though the allotment gardens regained a lot of their popularity in the recent years, they're definitely facing a lot of challenges. The biggest one is, of course, urban development. The cities in Poland grow very fast, the land becomes more and more valuable, and a lot of the allotment sites are just being sold to developers for residential projects. Even in our allotment site, we were not able to fully escape this because a part of our allotment site will actually be repurposed in a few years for a new tram line. So even though the group of people, like young Polish people, that learned to appreciate allotment gardens is still growing, the future of this place is still uncertain. I'm not sure if in 10, 20 years a lot of places like this will still exist, but I guess that makes you appreciate it even more while it lasts. I really think that allotment gardens, especially the ones in big cities, are just absolutely unique and beautiful concept. Those little pockets of countryside in a center of gigantic cities where people can just escape and connect with nature. I don't know, for me it's just an absolutely amazing idea. Home sweet home. I know that this video was something a little bit different than what we're normally doing here on the channel, but I hope you still liked it and you liked learning something new about allotment gardens and about Poland. Thank you so much for joining me today, and see you next time.